वो सुबह कभी तो आएगी, अंबर झूमेगा, धरती गीत गाएगी।
इन काली सदियों के सर से जब रात का आंचल ढलकेगा,
जब दुख के बादल पिघलेंगे, जब सुख का सागर छलकेगा, जब अंबर झूम के नाचेगा, जब धरती नगमे गाएगी,
वो सुबह कभी तो आएगी, वो सुबह कभी तो आएगी।
All of us have been feeling very strongly that the book deserves to be printed, deserves to be circulated.
We had Dr. Dhawale, who was a researcher in yoga from Bhagwad. So after MLD's demise, he had passed one comment which has stayed with me. He said that MLD was, his intellect was so keen and his thoughts and his knowledge was so ahead of his time that it would be difficult for the profession to grasp. And it is the responsibility of the disciples of MLD. So you have to write commentaries on his writings so that those become accessible to the next generations.
See, MLD sir's writing process, if one was to speak about, it changed over a period of time. Because I do remember when it was Principles and Practice, and I'm talking about in 65, and I was only about 12 years old at that time. And I do remember at that time, he would type, but he would be very systematic in what he would write. And the next project was the symposium volume. And there what we found that most of the paper writers had not been trained in writing, English writing. So he would ask them to write, and they would come with some sort of papers, and what would be at the end of the interaction was huge crosses across whatever was written and something in the margins and some diagrams, because we know symposium volume has so many atlases and so many diagrams. So the paper writer would go back totally changed. At least the manuscript was changed totally.
He was rather impatient as a person. So he had difficulty in comprehending that smaller mortals have difficulty. So fortunately for me, my English was good, though I come from a Marathi medium.
And then when we went on to Perceiving One and Life and Living, there I think he almost withdrew him to himself. Then there was not much of an interaction. Then what he would produce was almost final. He would talk to Mrs. Belsray and she would give inputs. But I am not too sure that many of those inputs would be really accepted. And as a result of what happened was that the style which MLD sir used subsequently, he was very, very direct and very abrupt in the changes that he went through. So there was a huge change. MLD sir in 65 and in 1986.
In 86, he wrote the basic draft, not noted down. He wrote a book, but the book was like so aphorismic, like Hanuman's aphorisms or Panini, the great grammarian in Sanskrit. He has written 3 or 4 lines suktas, which you go on spending, you go on writing a commentary on it, page after page.
It became more sort of a focused, more only the essence and shorn of all ornamentation. So what Mrs. Belsray is saying is true, sutras. In talking in terms of sutras.
You cannot believe that Principles and Practice Part 1 and Advancing Frontiers Part 2 was written by the same person. Sir had a perfect command over grammar. So if something new struck him, I told this to Kumar sir also, if something new struck him, an ordinary person like me, would scratch out that sentence and rewrite, incorporating that. No, he just turned the end, added the thing further. So, for people to understand a 4-line sentence with so many clauses, phrases, difficult. So he was in a hurry to complete the book.
The writing of Advancing Frontiers took place over a very short period of time. As his health was giving way, and as his eosinophilia and the interstitial fibrosis started, he was more and more confined to not being able to travel. And at that time, he started with the Advancing Frontiers. And his pattern of writing Advancing Frontiers was that he would get up very early in the morning. It would be 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m. And at that time, he was still using the typewriter. Though our Vaze uncle had given him an electronic machine, but that was here, it was not at home. So at home, he had the typewriter. And in the morning, he used to go on typing for at least 2 hours continuously. Entire manuscript was typed straight from his mind onto the paper. And then the peculiar thing of MLD sir was that he developed his peculiar way of writing vertically, horizontally, and connecting those, which our printer, Mr. Vaze, found it fascinating. And they were friends. Prabhakar Vaze and my father was friend. So Prabhakar Vaze always used to tell me, Mitrala, he kasa jamta? How does he manage this? And he used to type all those letters in horizontal, vertical, and this way. So that was something that was very, very surprising.
Yeah, he had his own way of giving us the input text. He hardly ever wrote things down. He had a baby portable typewriter, and I remember I have memories of his sitting in his room upstairs and typing away on that machine on full-scape size sheets, and he used to hand over those sheets to us, which we again retyped in the format required.
And as he had become used to, the entire book was in his mind. The entire chapter series were in his mind. The chapter was in his mind. The chapter used to be written with his sections, subsections, subheadings, and everything used to be written. So one would be surprised that he would give us, this is the Advancing Frontiers. What was it? So it was 7 chapters only in heading, subheading section. This is what. What do you think of it? Now, at that time, it was extremely difficult for us to understand what he had in mind when he was getting through this and what he actually wanted to pen or how he wanted to flesh everything. This whole process took place, and it took place maybe over 6 to 7 months. The whole thing was complete.
See, the last time was we had a marathon meeting at Dr. Manoj Patel's clinic. After the symposium closed early, and we went to his, or we had some public function, and we went to his clinic and sat and talked. And that was in 93.
The attempts earlier, what Mrs. Belsare mentioned about Manoj sir's clinic, we had gone to Kalyan, to Dr. Kapse sir's clinic, and we had sat down there. Dr. Dikshit sir was there. So we had come and we had listed all the excellent cases, evidence-based cases that were there, and we had already started. Chapter 1 has these cases, Chapter 2 has these cases. All of that was ready.
The original plan in 2002 was to take one case and demonstrate everything. That case had a potential, but then, one case demonstrating so many concepts may have been more complex. And the keeping continuity across the chapter would have been a difficult thing. So probably, it was a wise decision that we did not continue with that.
Sometime in 2010, Madhavi and Rupal and I, all three of us sat down and we took up one case. That case was of mine, of an organic psychosis, which was presented in the symposium. It was a case of lachesis. And we were trying to look at how that case can enter into the susceptibility evaluation. So chapter 3, we were looking at it. And a lot of work was done. Rupal wrote something, Madhavi wrote, CC was written, a lot of work was done. But then, where we got stuck up? We got stuck up because we felt that the way in which Sir has dealt with the concepts in such a short way, if we are going to just talk about the case, then it is not going to get across. We have to constantly connect what aspect of the case to which section and subsection. So then we got down to trying to expand on the subsections in the case. So then we were ourselves convinced that if we were going to give that to a reader and say that now you read this chapter and now the reader was going to get lost in the case and in its own exposition. So then we gave up that also. So then it all went into the cold storage, and then it was because Golden Jubilee of ICR, and we had to do something to bring back Sir's memory.
So Bipin and I were after him that, look, the engine has played a lot of load behind, now the engine has to take the front load. And sir, आप कुछ लिखो, आपको कहना है कुछ, आपने जो समझा है.
So after a psychology book, we were traveling one day in the morning. So I told Sir that now is the time that you must write everything what you have. Now, don't worry about what is going around. We need your final, because MLD Sir has already gave us something to ponder on for too many, we'll have to take rebirth again and again. But now you also have gathered and you also have got good conceptual background as well as experience and understanding. So give back to the world. We are looking forward to it. Now you don't get into other things. Please write.
Bipin Sir's pressure was instrumental. And, when he said that you are the only person and, at the age of 71, 72, and with NLT Sir's passing away, I mean, it was a very tragic incident for all of us, because NLT Sir also was in the process of writing something which he could not complete. So I think that was a sort of a reminder, you could say a shock, I could say a wake-up call, that let us not now waste more time and let us complete this to the extent we can. So it is then that, we decided that no, now enough is enough. Let us bite the bullet now. And that's how we started the work in August or so.
I think it is a click. The speed with which Kumar Dhawale has written this book is not humanly possible. Thing which we have not done for 40 years can be completed in few weeks is not humanly possible.
So the sequence was a little ethical and a little, I would call it, medical or conceptual. The ethical problem was, and we wrestled with that, is it proper to just expand somebody's work who is no more and who had told us that just add the cases and release the work? That was his last words. So are we justified in making a change? And then I spoke to my sister as a representative of the family, because the copyright rests with the family. They were not at that time transferred to the trust. So I spoke to my sister and I spoke to my brothers. And my sister said that, look, we have to ensure that the word gets across, his ideas get across. And if you feel that that is so, then you go ahead. And then we also, Kapse sir has worked with MLD sir, SKP sir has worked with MLD sir. So we were also asking them from their angle. So we gave a sort of a 360 degrees review we took. And the seniors, they said that Kapse sir was very clear. What MLD sir has written has to be released. Let people understand what they can. Let them not understand what they cannot. Dr. Fansalkar sir was also veering down to the point of view, but he said that no, but the cases have to be added.
So then Kumar sir took the lead. He and Bipin sir, they have a lot of communication channels open to each other. Both of them together created that draft.
मैं तो एक दो दिन भूल गया था, मैं बोला सर को बोला है तो पता नहीं है वो कुछ करेंगे। 2 या 3 दिन के बाद में मेरे को मेल आया, बोला ये देख, तो मुझे लगा अभी ये लग गए काम पे, तो फिर मैं भी लग गया। तो वहाँ से हमारे दोनों की जर्नी चालू हुई।
We circulated the old chapters as they were to 4 lecturers from the institute. And we asked them, tell us what you feel about the book and how it goes and what you understand. And we also asked them to share it with some of their senior students. So we wanted to get a feedback about whether that book as it is written is going to get across or not.
What I suggested was that the language definitely needs to be more simplified if we want to reach out to a larger section of homeopathic physicians. The various ICR terminologies like problem definition, problem resolution has to be explained with a lot of examples and caselets so that common physicians can read it. Another suggestion was that the various concepts outlined in the book like unprejudiced observer and similar like that can be aligned with the aphorism of the 6th edition so that common homeopathic readers or an average student can relate with the concepts given in the book and the concepts written in the 6th edition.
The clear hint came from our lecturers and our students. And our lecturers said that non-ICR people would not be comfortable with what has been written. And the students, because the students are the final consumers. So they also were into trouble and they were finding the language, the structure of the language, the manner in which the concepts were exposition. They found everything difficult. So then it was confirmatory that, okay, this is it. We cannot release it the way in which it was written.
Then we started exploring cases. फिर केस का चॉइस करना was very very प्राइम थिंग, बिकॉज जगह पे केसेस बहुत है लेकिन वो कंसेप्ट उसी रिटर्न में करने के लिए देन वी स्टार्टेड एक्सप्लोरिंग. सो अभी रिसेंटली MICR एग्ज़ाम हुआ था, ये सब हुआ था. सो देन वी स्टार्टेड. सो हम दोनों में बहुत उस लेवल पे दोनों के बीच ही मैक्सिमम चला है कंटेंट में.
So then we started the expansion, and in the expansion the process was that we took section by section, we looked at it, and then where we found that things were very congested, very compressed, we expanded it. Then I used to get this back to Bipin sir. Bipin sir would look at it, he would also point out that no, this is not correct, this needs a little more exposition. And then when I used to expand it, at times he used to say, but now you are also becoming difficult.
केस के लिए, केस में भी हम लोग उनको बोलते थे इतना, और फिर केस का वर्किंग भी हम लोगों ने किया है बहुत सारा, और फिर वो गाइड को भेजते थे, ये बराबर है ना, तुमको कुछ ऐड करना है क्या, बिकॉज वी वर नॉट वांटिंग टू delay the final outcome.
There was this one case in which I had worked on the standardized paper, that is SPHP. So actually being a third observer, I had actually gone into a learner's role and worked the entire SPHP, which is available in the book. So yeah, so that was almost a CCF I have done, along with Bipin sir has guided me, Kumar sir has guided me. So my role in selecting cases were none, but understanding the relevance of the case with respect to what it served in that chapter or in a particular section of the chapter. That was something which was for me to decipher, and has it actually get transferred?
I have only interacted with Madhavi till CCF SPHP CCF भरने तक, यानी जो मेन कंटेंट है ना, उस कंटेंट में प्राइमरीली मी एंड कुमार सर, द ऑल केस कॉन्ट्रीब्यूटर्स, बट वी were leading, and as and when required they came. The moment content part got over, that now we have finished with the content, I was out.
Dr. Shruti has been brought into these advancing frontiers for the first time in a major way. But she was not into textbook. And when I approached her, she was a little reluctant, saying that, look, I am doing a lot of scientific journal thing and I am out of the textbook type of writing anymore. But I felt that her necessary part of here was because Mrs. Belsares, because of her health condition, we could not expect the type of sustained engagement that she would bring. So I said that the only person who will help us is Shruti. And Shruti has been a magic.
After Kumar sir had finished working on them, I do the majority of the language cleanup, the grammar, the details as such, even things like spacing and capitalization. That then the chapter went to Belsare madam and then to Madhavi ma'am.
So in the case where are we able to, has the author properly deciphered the meaning of intent through the case which has been selected for the same? That was something which I had to do.
And Dr. Madhavi's journey over the last, I think, maybe a decade or less than a decade, I think, has been a very tough journey. Madhavi has grown in a remarkable way because, if one sees Madhavi madam's background and Mrs. Belsare's background, there's a huge difference. And language and style doesn't come so easily to Madhavi. But what I see is that the manner in which she has engaged, the type of work and contribution in advancing frontiers has been phenomenal. And she has worked on all the fronts. So hats off to her. Dr. Tamanna has been a force which has constantly reminded us that there is a client who needs to be looked into, who needs to be communicated to, who needs to be cared for in a major way. And so you need to be attentive to it constantly. And she has kept us on our toes in spite of all her engagements and her travels and everything. She has been backbone for our publicity.
In Advancing Frontiers, the tone is of movement, of elevation, of evolution, and this subtlety required some element of surrealism along with lightness. And designing of a cover is not a solo effort. If you see the cover of Advancing Frontiers, it bears the images from the deep space by James Webb Telescope. It was Kumar sir's idea. We brought in the element of the homeopath, the human silhouette that you see in the design. Now, where should this be placed in the design? At what distance? What should be the posture like? What should be the profile? Even the gestures of the hand. This also went through several iterations. Eventually, you see this image, the silhouette, as if reaching out to the galaxy in that yearning for deeper knowledge and as if moving towards the frontiers. Now, that is how it connects to the title of the book. and also connects to the depth of the knowledge that is hidden in the book.
If MLD sir was around to see the final version of the book, first of all, I'd be terrified to show it to him. If he would have suggested further changes.
And I think sir should be happy, MLD sir should be happy.
He would have been happy. He would look over our shoulders at what we are doing and go on taking turns walking like this, you know. So there would be a little exasperation, and perhaps if he would feel that this wasn't necessary, but at the same time he would also appreciate what we are doing, because we have preserved, basically the core is preserved. That is the main thing.
If MLD sir was around, well, I think that he would be surprised that the book has changed its entire contours. And as I have said in the preface, that the structure we have not touched. We have maintained the structure. The chapters, the headings, all of that remains the same. We have not touched it. But where we have tried to make changes is in the method of communication. So if I am looking at that from that angle, the form had to change because the community has changed. Participants have changed, the consumers have changed, clients have changed. So the form had to change. And so therefore, because if you had to deliver the function, if you had to make sure that understanding is there so that people can learn and imbibe and can apply, then I think if MLD sir was able to see the efforts that we have made in making this a book which can reach the people, I think he would be very happy. Well, very, very satisfied that I have completed the work which was left hanging. The crow had not helped me, who helped sir. But in spite of that, this was something that was due, and I am glad that it has come out.
वो सुबह आखिर आ ही गई, खुशियों की बदली छा ही गई, जिसकी खातिर हम सदियों से एक आस लगाए बैठे थे, वो सुबह आखिर आ ही गई, वो सुबह आखिर आ ही गई।